The cabin lights dimmed as Flight 447 prepared for its cross-country journey from Boston to San Francisco, but the peaceful hum of the engines was shattered by the piercing screams of a small child. Passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, exchanging glances that ranged from sympathetic to irritated. In seat 12A, Marcus Wellington held his 5-year-old son Ethan against his chest, feeling the boy's body convulse with each sob, watching helplessly as tears streamed down his child's terrified face. Marcus was worth $47 million. He could buy anything, solve any problem, make any obstacle disappear with a phone call or a check. But in this moment, 30,000 feet above the ground, all his wealth and power meant absolutely nothing. He couldn't hear his son's cries, couldn't explain why the plane felt different, couldn't promise him everything would be okay in a way Ethan could understand. And for the first time in his carefully constructed life, Marcus Wellington felt utterly devastatingly powerless. Marcus had built his fortune from nothing, creating a tech company that revolutionized data security. He'd faced down hostile takeovers, weathered economic crashes, and outmaneuvered competitors who'd wanted to destroy him. But none of that prepared him for fatherhood, especially after his wife Sarah died from complications during childbirth. Ethan had been born deaf, and Sarah's last words to Marcus were whispered promises about the beautiful life their son would have, about how his disability wouldn't define him, about how love would be enough. Marcus had clung to those promises through every sleepless night, every specialist appointment, every moment when he wondered if he was doing enough for his boy. He'd learned sign language within 6 months, hired the best speech therapists, enrolled Ethan in a prestigious program for deaf children. He'd restructured his entire life around his son, turning down business opportunities that would take him away for too long, moving to a neighborhood with excellent resources for hearing-impaired children. But this trip was unavoidable, a crucial meeting with investors that could secure his company's future, which meant securing Ethan's future. Marcus had prepared everything meticulously: Ethan's favorite toys, his iPad loaded with games, snacks he loved. What he hadn't prepared for was the sheer terror his son would feel in this unfamiliar environment, surrounded by strangers, trapped in a metal tube with no escape. "Please, buddy, please," Marcus signed desperately, his hands moving through the gestures, even as his vision blurred with frustrated tears. But Ethan was beyond reasoning, lost in his fear, his small hands clutching at his father's shirt as he wailed. Around them, passengers were growing increasingly agitated. A businessman in the row ahead kept turning around to glare at them. A woman across the aisle had her headphones turned up so loud Marcus could hear the music. The flight attendant approached with a practiced smile that didn't quite hide her concern. "Sir, is there anything we can do to help?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. Marcus shook his head, signing frantically to Ethan, trying everything he knew to calm his son. Nothing worked. The screams continued, raw and desperate, and Marcus felt his own composure cracking. He'd faced down boardrooms full of sharks, negotiated billion-dollar deals, given speeches to thousands of people, but he'd never felt more exposed, more judged, more inadequate than in this moment. That's when he heard a small voice cut through the chaos. "Excuse me, mister. Can I try?" Marcus looked up to see a little girl standing in the aisle, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and bright, intelligent eyes. She wore a faded purple sweatshirt with a unicorn on it and carried a worn stuffed rabbit under one arm. Behind her stood a woman who appeared to be her mother, looking apologetic but not stopping her daughter. "I don't think," Marcus began, but the girl was already moving closer. Her hands beginning to form shapes Marcus recognized instantly. She was signing. The girl positioned herself where Ethan could see her and began moving her hands with fluid, graceful precision. "Hi," she signed. "My name is Lily. What's yours?" Ethan's screams faltered, hiccuped, then stopped completely. His tear-stained face turned toward this unexpected visitor, confusion replacing terror in his red-rimmed eyes. "Ethan," Marcus signed for his son, who was too shocked to respond. Lily smiled, completely unfazed by Ethan's distress. That's a cool name, she signed. Are you scared of the plane? I used to be scared too. Want to know a secret? Ethan nodded slowly, his small chest still heaving with residual sobs. Planes are actually really safe. They're like giant birds, but better because they have bathrooms, Lily signed, her expression so serious that even Marcus felt the corner of his mouth twitch. And the pilot? He's like a bird driver. Very good at his job. Never crashed once. How do you know sign language? Marcus signed to her, his heart pounding with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Lily turned to him with a matter-of-fact expression. My little brother is deaf. His name is Danny. He's 4. He taught me, I learned for him, but he taught me why it matters. She looked back at Ethan. Can I sit here and show you something? Marcus nodded, moving over slightly. Lily's mother, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes and worn jeans, gave Marcus an understanding smile before settling back into her own seat a few rows back. Lily climbed into the middle seat like she'd been invited to the most exclusive party in the world. She pulled out her stuffed rabbit and made it dance across the tray table, her hands moving in playful signs between the rabbit's movements. This is Mr. Hops. He's been on 17 planes. He's never been scared because he knows planes are just cars that fly. And you know what the best part is? Ethan shook his head, completely mesmerized. When you're up in the clouds, you're closer to the stars. Even in the daytime when you can't see them, they're there. And they're watching out for you. My mom told me that. Her hands moved, with such natural expressiveness that Marcus found himself captivated too. This child had a gift, not just for signing, but for connection. For the next 20 minutes, Lily entertained Ethan with stories about Mr. Hops, taught him new signs she'd learned from her brother, and showed him how to play simple hand games. She explained everything about the plane, why it made certain sounds, why your ears felt funny, why you had to wear a seatbelt. She did it all without condescension, without pity, just with the pure, genuine kindness of a child who understood what it felt like to be different, to need patience, to require the world to meet you where you were. Marcus watched his son transform. The terror melted away, replaced by curiosity, then engagement, then actual joy. Ethan laughed, a sound Marcus never tired of hearing despite its unusual pitch as Lily made Mr. Hops fly through the air to demonstrate how planes worked. How? Marcus signed to Lily during a moment when Ethan was distracted with the stuffed rabbit. How are you so good at this? Lily looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her years. Danny gets scared sometimes too. When he started preschool, he cried every day because the other kids didn't understand him. They thought he was weird. So I learned that being patient isn't hard. It's just about paying attention to what someone needs instead of what you want them to be. The simple wisdom of those words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Here was this child, probably from a family with a fraction of his resources, teaching him something fundamental about parenting, about humanity, that all his money and education had failed to provide. He'd spent so much time trying to fix Ethan's deafness, to compensate for it, to smooth every rough edge from his son's path, that he'd forgotten the most basic truth. Ethan didn't need to be fixed. He needed to be understood. Your brother is very lucky to have you, Marcus signed, his throat tight with emotion. Lily shrugged. I'm lucky to have him. He taught me that there are lots of ways to talk, and listening isn't just with your ears. She turned back to Ethan. Want to see my favorite sign? Ethan nodded enthusiastically, completely transformed from the terrified child of half an hour ago. Lily's hands moved in a graceful, flowing motion, and Marcus recognized the sign for friend. But she didn't stop there. She took Ethan's small hands and guided them through the motion, then pointed to herself, then to him. Friends, she signed. You and me. Ethan's face lit up with a smile so bright it made Marcus's chest ache. His son signed friend back, the gesture wobbly but earnest. For the rest of the flight, Lily checked on Ethan periodically, coming back to show him new signs or to let him play with Mr. Hops. Other passengers, who'd started the flight annoyed and frustrated, watched the interaction with softening expressions. One elderly woman near Marcus wiped her eyes with a tissue. The businessman who'd been glaring earlier gave Marcus a small nod of acknowledgement, something like respect in his eyes. When the plane began its descent into San Francisco, Ethan remained calm, his small hand gripping Mr. Hops, which Lily had insisted he borrow, and his eyes bright with the kind of contentment Marcus had worried he'd never see on this trip. As they prepared to disembark, Marcus pulled out his wallet, not really sure what he was doing, but feeling like he needed to do something, to give something to this family that had given him so much. Lily's mother appeared beside him, and he tried to offer her money, to explain that he wanted to help, to thank them properly. She gently pushed his hand away, her expression kind but firm. "No," she said softly, speaking aloud while also signing so Ethan could see. Lily didn't do what she did for money. She did it because Danny would want someone to do the same for him. That's how the world should work, you know? We take care of each other's kids. All of us. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept carefully guarded since Sarah died. "Then please, at least let me give you my contact information. I run a foundation. We could help with resources for your son, therapy, education." "We're doing okay," she said, and Marcus believed her, not because they were wealthy, but because they were rich in ways that had nothing to do with money. "But if you really want to do something, do it for someone else. Find another kid who needs what Ethan needed today. Be the person who steps up." As they walked off the plane, Lily ran back one more time, hugging Ethan fiercely. She signed something Marcus almost missed. "You're going to do amazing things. Being different makes you special, not less." Standing in the airport terminal, watching Lily and her mother disappear into the crowd, Marcus felt the full weight of what had just happened settle over him. He'd spent millions on Ethan's care, on creating the perfect environment, on controlling every variable, and a little girl with a stuffed rabbit and a generous heart had accomplished what all his resources couldn't. She'd made his son feel seen, understood, and valued exactly as he was. That night, in their hotel room, as Ethan slept peacefully clutching Mr. Hops, which Lily had ultimately insisted he keep, Marcus sat at the desk and began writing. He wrote about creating new programs through his foundation, about funding sign language education in public schools, about breaking down barriers between hearing and deaf communities. But more than that, he wrote about restructuring his priorities, about being present, about understanding that the best gift he could give his son wasn't protection from hardship but connection with a world full of people like Lily, people who chose kindness over convenience. 2 years later, Marcus's foundation had funded sign language programs in 200 schools across the country. He'd stepped back from daily operations of his company to spend more time with Ethan, and every year, on the anniversary of that flight, he sent Lily's family a letter, not with money, but with stories of the children they'd helped, the lives they'd touched, the ripple effect of one little girl's compassion. He never forgot that the things that matter most can't be bought. They can only be given freely, from one human heart to another, in the universal language of kindness that transcends all barriers, even the barrier between sound and silence.